don't know where the treats at.
Is this the passing of the torch, right? Is this what this signifies?
It comes down to that front office and what they feel is most important.
The champ is here. We touched down from a higher plane. Why you made it here?
We always look forward to that week because it was always intense.
You know that we ain't coming back. We about to.
The man, the myth, the legend, Dante Hall. My favorite player growing up was Dante Hall. I love you guys in the show, but Dante was my guy.
Get to dashing because you done on the warfield.
This episode of Chief Concerns is brought to you by betonline.ag. Hey there, Marcus Dash here from Chief Concerns. Just want to comment and say BetOnline is your #1 source for all your sports betting needs. Get the latest odds, lines, and matchup reports for football, baseball, boxing, golf, and much more. BetOnline continues to be the fastest and easiest way to place your wagers, including live betting and your favorite casino and card games available to play right from your phone. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today and get in on the action. Remember to use promo code BELIEVE, BLEAV, for your 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. Bet online, where the game starts. Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Chief Concerns. I'm Marcus Dash here with legendary Chiefs tight end Jason Dunn, and tonight we have a special treat for everybody out in Chiefs Kingdom for our preview of the Patriots game this weekend. JD, you can kind of go into a little detail about who we have coming on here in a little bit.
Who we have coming on here? What, tonight? We got somebody coming on tonight? Okay, now I'm just so tonight, I thought it was important, just kind of have the case, the conversation, to put some of these things at rest. Obviously, this past week, kind of came to a boiling point, if you will, in a lot of different ways, talking about the officiating in the NFL. And so I thought, hey, why not just go ahead and talk about some of the things that's been happening, give the people a treat, and bring one of my guys on. He's a fellow Kentucky Pro Football Hall of Fame inductee, Jim Daopoulos, who has been in the NFL officiating for 11 years, has been supervisor of officiating for 12, does a lot in the NFL office as far as getting these guys, officials, together, knows it in and out. I mean, he's done it. He's had a relationship with Andy and every single coach that you see that's on the map. Jim has done it. He has been there, and he could speak to every little element about the call that was made Sunday. And I guess it's good for us to kind of move past that point, but also too, what people were talking about, consistency, right? And then I think it's what everybody was screaming about, consistency. Oh, what we want is consistency, and this is what we want in it. And so I just want to address that. And Jim said he's going to be wide open. This is full throttle right here. And so for anybody has any questions or anything they want to say, they can come on tonight and ask it. And to be honest with you, I want people to do that. I think it's important to have conversations. This is a rare occasion to have somebody that you can actually talk to that's in the official's office and discuss whatever it is you want to discuss, whatever issues that comes up. See, because the thing is, I put in, my assessment because I understood the rules for playing in the game, being on the outside, talking about how the referees deal with us in a lot of different ways. And people have their own opinion about it. We've seen Dan or Lopsy come up, what he said about it. I heard RG3 come up, make his assessment of what he thought. And so, you're going to have a lot of different opinions, a lot of different ways that you look at things. And so there's a lot of context there to be said. And I get the whole point about the consistency. I realize that, also too, in the point of human error, trying to be consistent on a lot of different ways. I said the only thing that is consistent is human error, right? And subjective calling. But this is my opinion also too. So we're going to talk to somebody who actually does this, Marcus, Jim, who's a very good friend. Appreciate him so much for just taking his time out to have this conversation with us. And so I want people to come in to the chat, man. And what I'm going to do is I might send you might see some people coming because I want people to come in and kind of ask a question to kind of engage. So this should be a pretty fun show tonight. This is what we all about here at Chiefs Concern, is to have conversations with everybody. Why not just bring the people in that actually know the game, that actually do this, to talk to you about what it is.
We're going to bring him on right now. Let's get Jim Daopoulos in right now.
Hey guys, how you doing tonight?
Jim, how's it going, man? How you doing?
Good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you fine. We hear you fine, man. You know, first off, man, I want to say, man, hey, thanks for coming on the show tonight. To give us your time, your expertise on everything, just officiating, just your relationships that you have established over the years with some of the coaches in the league, but also too, just knowing the integral parts, the ins and outs of everything officiating. And when I'm telling you, like the professionalism that you have and expertise as being supervisor officials, this is a very good treat for us. Mm-hmm.
Well, and appreciate the opportunity to be on, and be glad to answer any questions that anybody might have. Okay.
And so, Jim, I said you said, man, you ready to go. And I said, man, Jim is going to be here ready, full throttle. So, you see people like that. Thanks for your time. And what we'll do, man, we'll go ahead and we'll get right into some of the conversation. Okay. Obviously, you've been watching football for a long time, and this past year, there's been a very huge concern about some of the officiating that's been going on in the NFL this past year. And it seems like the voices, the noises have been getting louder over the past couple of years about some of these calls that's being made toward the end of the game, or maybe at a pivotal part where teams and fans don't like the calls that's being made. We want to talk directly about the one call that was made on Sunday on Kadarius Toney, trying to get some clarity, okay, about the rules and how these things work as far as when a guy comes to the outside, a receiver, tight end, whoever it may be, who's coming to the line of scrimmage. When he checks to the official on the outside, you could tell us who the guy is actually, what his chief role is, and how that works. And so if you want to, we'll talk. We'll cover how it happened. So Toney comes out, okay, looks to the official, looks to him, just looks, right? People say that's checking. Okay, they say it's checking, right? But doesn't really look for a confirmation in itself, right? I think it's just going through the motion, right? That we always do, kind of look out, kind of look back in. And he is offsides. Okay, clearly he's offsides. The controversy came in, not that he was offsides. Everybody knows that, right? Everybody says, no, well, that's not the problem, that it wasn't offsides. The problem goes into it that there was no warning prior to that for Kadarius Toney, who had shown previously in the game that he had been offsides quite a few times prior to that. Now, what I will say is this, okay, and I did some digging in this as well. The ones that he was offsides was on a different side, totally. The ones that Dan Orlovsky has showed, he was on the other side of the field. So do referees flip flop at any time, or they stay on one side, or is it consistent? How does that work? Okay, just
Jason, they flip flop at the half, and what you're looking at is you're looking at a head linesman and a line judge, and they control the line of scrimmage. Let me back up a little bit, and one thing that you said earlier, which I think is very important, and I think that's as a supervisor when I was up in New York. And what we looked for, and I'm sure the coaches and the players look for, is that one word is consistency in the officiating. Right. You're looking for consistency. Now getting to Kadarius Toney's play, the receiver has a responsibility. He's got to determine, is he on the line of scrimmage or is he in the backfield? So whether he comes up, every time he should be coming up there. If he's good, he'll be checking, he'll be looking at the line of scrimmage official to get a thumbs up or a confirmation that he is lined up properly. If the official feels that he is in the backfield, he'll let him know that you're a back. And he may not want to be a back. He may be the wide receiver on the line of scrimmage. He's going to try to help him out and do some preventive officiating there. But it's still the responsibility of the player to line up properly. Now, in reference to your comment about he had done this 6 or 7 times earlier, I can't comment on that because I didn't go back over all the film. But basically, it's his responsibility. It's not the official's responsibility to line him up. But there's a communication type situation between the official and the player consistently during the game. Am I okay? I give him a thumbs up, give him a back up, look inside, look in to see if you can see the football. If you can't see if I can't see the football in the line, he's got to be backing up. So he needs to be responsible for lining up properly. And then basically it's the responsibility of the official. Now, they have made this a point of emphasis this year. The NFL has made this a point of emphasis. From 2015 to 2022, they had like 14 of these offsides called. 14. Okay. 2015 to 2023, 2022. This year, they've already had 13 of them called. And this has a little bit to do with the situation in Philadelphia, with the tush push or whatever they call that crowd in the line of scrimmage. They try to clean up the line of scrimmage a little bit. It's a point of emphasis. We look at it. We used to look at it all the time. We were more concerned with the tackles. The tackles always seem to be lining up, in the backfield because they're getting beat by these pass rushers. What was it? Taylor, the right tackle. I mean,
Juwan Taylor
in an illegal position on that play. But again, we're not talking about what we're talking about is what these officials should do is they should be helping these guys out. But guys, there's 150 odd plays a game. You can't tell the guy every time. You try to help him out. And then I had a couple of calls and they said, well, why do they wait to see what happens on the play? Because it's not a foul until that ball is snapped. Toney could be 2 yards in the defensive line, over the defensive line, but it's not a foul until the ball is snapped. So they've got to let the play go. They're not looking to see what happens at the end of the play. They react to what their responsibility is as soon as they come out there, they have a checklist that they're going down, and then they go with that. And then as soon as they see a foul, they throw that flag.
Okay. So let me go back a little bit, just to clarify. Okay. And this goes into like the relationship between the player and the referee on the side. Okay. Mm-hmm. So if a player comes up to the edge and he looks for help, okay, are you obligated to give it to us when we're asking for help? Are you obligated to give it to us?
Yes. You should get. Okay. You're saying obligated. Again, you don't put the responsibility on the official. The responsibility is on that player. So he has to come out there. He should know he's been lining up for more than many years. He's been learning how to line up. So when he comes out there, he needs to kind of get his position, look in to see where the ball is. Now he looks back to see where the official is, and the official is going to give him a leg. He'll put his forward foot out and say, this is the line of scrimmage. So he's got 2 points that he can kind of line up with. So he's given him the opportunity. I've looked at a couple of this play I saw it somewhere online, and Kadarius came out and gave a really quick peek at that official, and then he didn't seem very interested in what was going on. He didn't look. He just kind of looked to get off it, not long enough to get any kind of a comment from the official.
Right. And I know you said that you will help a player out, okay? And it's like this unspoken rule that, look, if you ask for help, we'll give you help. But if I can't communicate to you, you're not looking at me, how can I tell you what you're doing right or what you're doing wrong? Because you're not even looking at me at that point. And I'm going to tell you just from my experience, Jim, when I've been on the outside, I point it out to the referee. And sometimes it's a subtle look. He may not tell me anything. He may nod his head and he may not. And this is my experience of playing 165 games in the NFL, being on the outside, checking the guy. But I do realize the onus is on me. Ultimately, the onus is on me, right? And so I guess y'all kind of like the somewhat of a safety net in a sense of saying like just for confirmation Am I okay? Am I okay? So that kind of goes into the question, though, Jim. Then, if at that point in the game, that he looks out and he turns back in, okay, he doesn't feel interested in doing that. The question goes into when he did it early in the game, and he did do it early in the game. Okay, he did it like four times in the game earlier. Okay. Why wasn't there a warning? Okay, or I'm gonna say this. All right, at least we don't know if there was a warning or not. And I think what's very important to understand is this. Sometimes on warnings, the warning may just be given to the player. Okay. The warning may just be given to the player. Or also, too, if somebody's offsides, because there's so many receivers, so many guys that come on outside, maybe you don't know who you wanted. And I think Andy and them came in. Andy was like, listen, the common courtesy, and they always come to us. Well, they at least will try to notify me. More, usually, the word usually. And I heard commentators like, well, they always come and warn you. They always come and warn you when something's going on. And I just, to me, you could speak to this. Is that something that you always do? Is that something that is always casually given, that courtesy? Does it always go to the coach, or does sometimes that want to go to the player? Or do you give guys leeway to say, okay, look, I've seen you, and I'm not going to call it right now, but we don't know if that warning was given early in the game or not. So I'll let you speak on that.
That's a great point, Jason. And, there's nothing that says you have to give them a warning before you fly. There's nothing in the rule books that says warn them and then flag. It's a courtesy that you do as an official. You try a lot of nonverbal communication with them. You're giving them an okay. You're giving them a head. Yes, you're okay, or no, you better back up. But another thing is you have to be a little bit careful, because now if he's on the line of scrimmage and he's supposed to be in the backfield, and you're telling him back up, and they snap the ball, now you've caused them. You've caused a foul there. So you've got to be careful as an official how you communicate with these players. I can tell you now, I haven't been with them for a few years, but the officials are a little bit different now. They probably don't have the communication skills that they have had in the past. They probably are a little bit more stoic out there. But, you try to do as much preventive officiating as you can. Let me tell you, the last thing that any of these officials on Sunday wanted to happen was what happened. They don't want that to happen. But, I think that officials' hands were tied. It was so egregious that Toney was so far offside. And everybody's saying 2 inches or 1 inch. When you can't, you've lined up, you can't, there's a neutral zone, and you got to stay out of that neutral zone. They try to keep that clean. And, if he hadn't been warned, if he'd been doing it all along, well, maybe, they need to address that. But I still believe that it was the responsibility of the receiver, and he has to get himself onside, because we can't coach him up on every play. Right.
Okay. It's a good point. I think it kind of moves into the conversation. So you said that is a courtesy. The warning in itself is a courtesy. Okay. Mm-hmm. And I know you know Andy. You've known Andy for a long time.
Long time. Probably one of the best ever out there.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I agree with you. And so Andy's saying, like, look, we've established a relationship. We understand coaches who've been into the game for a long time, him, Belichick, and those guys who has that the prominence about them. Sometimes it's just like the Jordan rule, right? Some guys who's been here for a long time, you got a little bit more rapport with. They're just like, hey, Andy, listen, there's a guy been lined up all sides. Can you get on him a little bit? Okay, I'm just letting you know somewhat. And I think that's what Andy was so irate about, because he said, well, if this thing has been happening, how come I wasn't warned? And I don't know if he was saying in itself that play in itself, was he warned before that, or he's saying, was it prior to the game? And so when it comes out that he was doing it prior to when he did it that time, he's saying, why wasn't I graciously given that warning? Okay.
Well, again, you've got to look at this. And again, I wasn't on the field, and I'm not sure, what transpired, what kind of communication went on out there. But when you've gone 58 minutes, that's not the time to give a warning. At some point you've got to just play. and again, you put yourself in Coach McDermott's place. What's he going to say if they didn't call that, and it's clearly offside, so you're in a tough situation. I know the officials have had a very difficult year, but I'm 100% in agreement with the call that they made in this game on Kadarius Toney.
Yeah. So, so on Monday night, here's the thing. Monday night, somebody else does it. We see Jalen Waddle. He does it. We see other guys do it throughout the season, and it hasn't been called, right? And I know you said they've been looking at it because you want to try to establish the line of scrimmage, and that's what people are so out of sorts with. Like, oh my gosh, like, look at it here. Look, he's outside. So how come they're not calling it? How come they not calling it? So it gets called in the Chiefs game, and I was trying to explain to someone, like, look, man, there's different officiating crews. They are. And so sometimes when you're looking for consistency, I said this, and I was being funny. I said consistency is asking an official for consistency is almost like asking a politician to tell the truth. I mean, it's.
Well, I hope it's not that bad, Jason. But you're exactly right. I mean, as I said earlier, when I was on the field, and then when I was up in the office, all we really looked for consistency out of officials. They're going to make mistakes. I mean, everybody makes mistakes out there, whether it's a player, a coach, an official. Everybody's making mistakes. And what you're trying to do is you're trying to mitigate those 4 or 5 plays in the game that are just so egregious that you've got to make that call. This is the call that has a big effect on the game. And, but the problem is it's hard for me to say, well, why did they call it on Sunday night and they didn't call it on Monday? And I know people have that problem. That frustrates the fan base. That frustrates them. And all I can say is these officials they're graded, they're scrutinized, they're they are under the microscope every week, and they're not just arbitrarily making calls. They feel very confident in the calls that they make. Do they miss them? Absolutely, they miss them. They've missed them from the first kickoff that they ever played football till ever. I mean, there's always going to be calls missed. But what you try to do is you want the officials to be consistent, and that's what the league is trying to clean up, this line of scrimmage. Because as I said, we're letting these offensive tackles back up because they're just getting beat. They can't stop these pass rushers. And the scoring's down, passing's down. So they're going to try to work on that. But again, the officiating aspect of it is, hey, I've got a call to make, and I've got to try to make this call correct. And I'm not sure if that's what the Kansas City fans are looking for, but I hope they understand that it was the correct call and it had to be made, and it wasn't just arbitrarily made. Something went into that with the official.
Yeah. I think it's just not Kansas City fans. Obviously, Kansas City is the one that got the short end of the stick this week on that call in itself. And I'm saying short end. I'm not saying the call was wrong, because it was right. It was the right call. Okay, if he's offsides, he's offsides, right? Period. But I think that's what everybody is like. They're talking about the consistent thing, and you kind of alluded to this too. Establishing the line of scrimmage, right? We see this offensive tackles who are getting off. Now, I played the game a whole lot. I could tell when the offensive tackle was fast on the snap. He's out of there before the ball's coming off, right? And I'm not sure if the line judge is seeing it or what's going on. Lane Johnson, obviously, talk about him. We got on Jawan Taylor, who at the very first of the season, it seemed like everybody was saying he was getting picked on. It seemed like he had a bullseye on his back. He's being targeted. And so everybody has an argument that they make in each fan base, right? And that's how it is. So I've seen, the Bills fan base, the Bengals. I'm in Bengals country, if you don't know. I'm in Bengals country because I'm here in Kentucky. So I hear all the time. They're like, oh, well, good for y'all. Y'all finally didn't have it, y'all. So I go back and forth with them. But what about that? I just real quick, just kind of talking about the tackle self and those guys coming off. What about that? Because I know you see it, and I know you could tell the guys are coming off too fast, Jim. I know you can see that.
It is so tight, Jason. It's kind of interesting. When we were evaluating games in New York, we would sit up there and we'd have all our plays looking at them, and it looked like we would have to put it down and put it on the wheel and do it one frame at a time to see. Some of them are just quicker than some of the linemen are just quicker than the other ones. Some of them beat the snap, and sometimes they don't get called, and that's just that's something that has to be worked on by the league, by the officiating department. But I don't think that's as egregious as the tackles that are that are lining up incorrectly. I think some of these tackles are just quicker than the guards in the center, but they all seem to be getting off. It looks like that leg is coming back before the ball is snapped.
Yes, sir. Sir.
As you're looking down the line, you're trying to pick up the ball, and then you're trying to look at that, to see if he moves, and then you're trying to see if his back leg moves. But it's a tough call. But it's until you've been down on the field, and you've been down on the field, but until you've been there trying to differentiate between what's right and what's wrong and what's a foul and what's not a foul. And at the speed of the game right now, it's so easy for us now as spectators that we can watch it on TV, and then they slow it down for us and they give us 5 or 6 different views of it to see what's going on. But I think for the most part, they talk about the officials are at upwards of 95% correct. And it's probably right. It's unfortunate that 5%, you don't want that. You don't want that 5% against your team. You don't want that 5% to have an effect on the game. But it does. I mean, it happened the week before. I mean, there was an egregious miss on the pass interference.
Right.
What do you do? I mean, it's just. And all of it's a miss, and he missed it. And what do you say? And I thought Mahomes and the Chiefs handled it very professionally, but I see their frustration this week. I see their frustration, but again, does one call determine the outcome of the game? Did one call, did something else? Talk about penalties, drop passes. Fumbles. You get all these other issues that go on during the game. And oftentimes they try to limit it or zero in on the one call that, hey, this costs us the game. And, it probably cost you the opportunity to win the game, but I don't think that call cost you the game.
I agree with you. I agree 100%. And that's where I was at, Jim, because I get these things do happen. That's the ebb and flow of a game, right? It is. There's 100 calls that get called, and there's 100 calls that's being missed. And I said, the thing is, why are we in that situation to begin with, right? What happened the first 58 minutes of the game that we didn't get those things done, right? I don't think just one play in itself does, change the course of the game. But that's what everybody's fussing about, right? This is going into what Patrick said. Patrick Mahomes is sitting there saying, and I know he took it back. There was a lot of frustration there. Some other things like that. Hey, why are y'all making these calls at the end of the game? Why make that call at the end of the game? Let the guys play. Let them guys play. And we've seen that, right? We know at the end of the game, you let guys play, especially in the Hail Mary pass, right? You will hardly ever call pass interference. Hardly ever. I don't think I've ever seen a pass interference call unless it's just blatantly, you just pull a guy down before them, right? But what do you think about that? About at the end of the game, like you can't make those calls. Like you got to let the guys play. How do you feel about that?
The game is 60 minutes long, and what we tried to tell officials is you have to officiate the first 2 minutes, the middle minutes, and the final minutes of the game exactly the same. Because again, you're trying to get consistent. You want the players to understand what they can do and what they can't do. Now, if you're going to tell them that we're going to let them play the last couple of minutes, there'll be chaos out there, And basically, you've got guidelines, you've got rules to follow. You've got to follow those rules. And it doesn't matter if you're at the beginning of the game or the end of the game. I used to have a problem, not a problem, but I used to always tell the officials, if you're going to call holding on the left guard in the first quarter, then call it in the fourth quarter. Or if you're going to let them do it in the first quarter and the second quarter, let them do it in the third and fourth quarter. You've got to be consistent as an official. If you're going to let them get away with it early, you can't let them, you can't let them hold. You can't let him grab a defensive back. You can't let him do all this stuff. And then at the end of the game, throw it on him, and he's going to throw up his hands and say, I've been doing this the whole game. Just like what happened, Tony's been lining up like that the whole game.
Yeah.
You can't do that. It comes down to the consistency. But when it comes to the offside, to me, the offside is the second easiest call to make. The easiest call is if you're under the goalpost calling for an extra point or a field goal. Because all you got to do is look up in the air, and if it goes on inside, it's good. If it goes outside, but offside is easy. I mean, if they beat you, if you can't see the ball, he's blocked you, and he can't be in that neutral zone.
Okay, go ahead.
I have a question about going back to the Packers game. So after, obviously, the one that everyone's talking about is the MVS pass interference. But the play after that, some people had some comments about the Hail Mary and how that as a whole, that play as a whole, Hail Marys, receivers are getting mugged down there by DBs, and that goes across the board. Why is that play so specifically called differently than most other plays? Because that happens in the second quarter during a game. There's going to be a DPI on that. But Hail Marys, you see that.
The only person in all the years that I worked on the field and in the league office, the only person I ever saw call pass interference on a Hail Mary was Terry McCauley, the current rules analyst for NBC. You know what? He saw a foul and he threw it. We all say, well, we're all going for the ball. They're all doing this. But no, some guys are pushing to get an advantage. And fouls, Jason, as you know, all comes down to advantage, disadvantage.
Absolutely. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
And one of the questions, but then you come up with Tony's play. Was there an advantage to that? We don't see an advantage, but he broke the rule. So, it's kind of a problem that you deal with. But in answer to your question, that was pass interference. If you push a guy when he's going to get the ball, if he did it out in the midfield in the first quarter, would that have been a foul? So why is it not a foul at the end of the game?
Yeah.
And they're gonna, you can get all this rigmarole. They're gonna give you all these excuses. Well, we do this and but is it a foul or it's not a foul, right? And you got to just kind of stand up and we missed it. Okay.
So I've got a question right here from one of the guys over here. He was talking about, I don't know if you could bring it up, Marcus. This is RH and Keys. Said I saw a video earlier this week, during season where a ref went up to Tyreek Hill pregame with a list of things to watch out for, not do. How does that process play out for a ref to have a list?
I have never heard of anybody doing that. That's really interesting. That he with a list of things to watch out for and not to do. I can't, and again, I can't say he didn't go over that list with him, but I can't believe that they would tell a player, don't do this. And, the one of the things that we would do as before our games is we would watch film, but you would never isolate on one guy. We're going to say, well, got to keep an eye on Jason Dunn because on those sweeps, he grabs a lot. You don't want to go in with a preconceived thought that, hey, this guy does this and this guy does that. So I just can't understand. I'm not questioning it, but I just can't understand why something like that would come up and why an official would do that.
Well, it was during one of the Hard Knocks episodes. They showed it. It was before the Jets game, the Black Friday game. I saw one little clip of it. It was telling him that he's going to call the peace sign if he did the peace sign going to the end zone today. And Tyreek's like,
it was probably It may have had something to do with celebrations. What you can be. And to be honest with you, I don't know what they can do now and what they can't do. When I was officiating, they couldn't go to the ground to celebrate. Now now guys are, it's like a choreography group that they set something up and they spend all week, trying to work it out. So I don't have an answer for that.
Okay. Well, good. So there was. So I'm glad we kind of able to hash some of this out. So when you were saying it, not necessarily obligated to give a warning, not obligated to necessarily coach a guy to tell him to get back. We help a guy if it's needed, if it's warranted to help a guy. You would help a guy if he's asking for it. Okay, I think that was very important to get to that point with it. Now, when we talk about like the consistency part, okay, and that's what kind of drive people crazy, because it's like you're very stern on one part, then it's like a little ambiguity on another. Like, well, we'll give leeway here, but it's almost like that but comes in. But on this one, we'll make a call. And I'm not saying I agree with you. I definitely agree with you. I think. Look, my brother's he's an official. He coaches. He officiates basketball. Okay, college basketball, and we go through it all the time because I'm just like, man, what do you think about it? He's like, nope, Jason, that's not what So we constantly go through it, right? But he's a stickler for being the rule, being the rule guy. He's like, look, this is what the rule is, and regardless of what people think. And so I'll give you a case in point, right? Like walking, okay, in basketball. They don't call travel all the time. We see guys move their feet, moving around, and then all of a sudden, fourth quarter, bing, somebody hits him with it. Boom, travel. And the player's like, what are you talking about? Like, and he's been doing it all game. So I think traveling is one of those things, like some rules that is a little bit of ambiguity on the calls, why it's not so like etched in stone, if you will, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I do agree, if Toney does this the very first quarter, okay, that's what everybody's asking. If he does this the very first quarter, why is he not flagged? Like, just go ahead and just flag him up. And so that way you can correct the behavior, right? And to be honest, I'm always, look, I'm about personal accountability and responsibility. He should know that going into the game, right? I mean, he's been playing for a long time. I've been playing for a long time. I asked my guys, how many of y'all guys lined up all sides? They all said none. None of us. I'm in a whole chat room of wide receivers, tight ends, and nobody has, right? But they also say, hey, JD, if I'm allowed to get away with this, I'm going to keep doing it. And I'm going to tell you, look, I've always said it. I told you this, Jim, the other day. I never feel like I was guilty of any penalty that was thrown on me. I think it was always a bad call. Okay? Always a bad call, right? That.
Well, I'm still having a little problem with this. With finding out. I would love to see some film, and I may go back and try to look at this of his lineup 5 or 6 times offside during the game and not being warned, not being told about it. Is it the same exact? Was he clearly offside? Was he close? It's a hard item for me to kind of understand because again, one of the things, and I thought the officials handled it great. One of the things that you've got to understand is you have a lot of young officials out there right now. There's been a lot of turnover in the NFL officiating department. Not so much that you have a lot of young guys out there, but you've lost a lot of the older veterans that can kind of teach these guys how to communicate. I think communication is probably one of the most important parts of officiating, is the official being able to communicate to the players, to the coaches on the sideline, and talk to them in a manner that's not coaching them. You're trying to help them out. You're trying to keep them, again, as I said earlier, we call it preventive officiating. And I'm just not sure if they're being taught this enough right now. And a lot of that just comes with experience. I mean, when you don't see guys with 10 and 15 and 20 years of experience, making questionable calls, marginal calls. You've got to understand that they have to have some experience to know what to call out there.
Okay.
And they do, and again, they do a good job. They make mistakes, but they have a good staff and they do a good job.
So I'm gonna ask you a question that one of my guys that I played with wanted to ask, and this was one of his comments. Said coaches should be able to review the film and submit all blatant missed calls at the end of every game. If a crew has more than if a crew has more than 3 in a game, each referee should be fined $1,500, or if a crew has more than 5, they should get fined $5,000 each. What do you think about the fines on that, as far as if you miss calls and things are being submitted? What do you think about that? Look, you've been a supervisor of officials. How do you handle those things? How's that work?
You would never get it by their union. That's the first problem that you run into. Let me back it up. When I was on the field and when I was up in the league office, basically every official was graded, and I still think they are graded on every call of every game. And basically then you're graded out, and then by the end of the year, it determines your position 1 to 17 at your specific position. And number 1 goes to the Super Bowl. Number 2 and 3 go to the championship. Those types of things. I'm not sure if the grading system is the same, but I don't know. I mean, when a player is offside, do you fine him? When a player drops a pass, do you fine him? I mean, you're kind of going into an area right now that and who's I mean, right now, when an official is downgraded, I mean, there's a process, and they can appeal it. And it goes through a whole process. But and again, it's they're held accountable for what they do. But I'm not sure if fining them would be the answer. I'm not sure how that would even come off. I just can't imagine fining officials for making mistakes out there.
I guess
does he? What if it's a big mistake, or is it a little mistake? Is it a 5-yard penalty or a 15-yard penalty, or is it a 40-yard pass interference mistake? I mean, those are the things that you'd have to, sometimes you just want to play the game, get rid of replay, just let them play and let the chips fall as they may. And the officials are going to make some, they're going to miss some, and sometimes we try to micromanage this game too much.
Right. And I think people don't quite understand that, because that was the point I try to make is, look, if you call every single call out there, it'll be a 10-hour game. There's no way you can get through a game calling all the fouls and everything that happens in the course of a game. It's impossible. It's impossible to do that. So I know y'all try to let guys play a little bit. And the thing is, that's why I go back to, just for us as players, is let's not leave it on the official. Let us control what we can control. Let us control what we can control, and then let things fall as it may. Okay, let it fall as it may. And I understand right now, because we did get the bad brunt of that. The call didn't go our way. It just seemed like it was, it didn't work to the Chiefs' favor. Then obviously we're going to hoop and holler about it because it's unfair. Right. And that's what every fan base says. It's unfair to call this thing, the tuck rule. I'll change that because Tom Brady, it's like all these different things started happening. Right. So do some players get a level of grace than others, more than others? And
yeah. Jason, let me tell you, I mean, look at the NFL right now. Look at the number of quarterbacks that are on the bench. These are franchises.
Oh my God. Yes,
this is franchise. The league is trying to protect them, maybe overprotect them, but you have to overprotect the quarterbacks. I mean, you've got Aaron Rodgers, you got Burrow.
Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert.
They're all getting hurt, and you've got to try to protect them. I mean, it's a very, very physical game, and I understand guys get hurt out there. But the quarterback is in a more vulnerable position. And again, I don't want to talk too much about what last week when Patrick was going out of bounds. They protected him. It wasn't a foul. That's a hit. If that was you running with the ball, that no one would have said anything. Both players were in bounds. It was not a 15-yard penalty, but they try to protect the quarterback in this league, and they have to, because they're the franchise. They're the ones that are making the money. They're the ones that make a difference. Teams, it makes a difference when your quarterback is in there.
Yeah, and I think I did the math on it. I think it's like $120 million on the sideline right now.
Yeah.
That's astonishing. That in itself is astonishing. You know, I said these guys, the quarterbacks that's been going in for them, need to give about $5 million to the quarterbacks been winning some of the games for them. So
yeah,
that's a different conversation. That's a different conversation.
You're right. It is. It is.
Yeah. Mark, do you have anything else as far as any question?
Not as far as like penalties per se. I think this year, and I want to hear what you think about this, Jim. This year, there's been a couple plays during a game where like if they do something called the quick review, where like they go and they kind of sum it up real fast, and I'm like, wait, like this is amazing. I wish most of the challenges and a lot of the reviews would go like this, because sometimes there's a play that's reviewed and it's like, okay, this shouldn't take long. Like the MVS catch last week. Like that was pretty quick. Like he caught that, and like we shouldn't have spent any time on that. But like this year, I think they've done a pretty good job of the kind of quick review. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, the game has changed tremendously. As you notice, every official has an earpiece. So New York's talking to everybody. I mean, New York's telling them, helping them out. Adjust the ball, do this. Pick up the flag. It's not a foul. That I think that is really good if they can have somebody there that can help them out on the really egregious stuff. The situation last week in with the Packers, if somebody was up there just telling that back judge, throw your flag, it's a foul. But again, in with your question. Yeah, they have a lot of help now with these quick replays, the quick reviews, and that's what people want. People don't want to wait 3, 4, 5 minutes for a decision. And the problem is half the time the announcers have got it figured out beforehand. Yeah. And then, but again, it's something that you try to – you want the game to be perfect. It's not a perfect game. The ball doesn't even roll through. I mean, you roll the ball and it's got to go over to left and right and all that. It's a tough game, but they want perfection. People watch football games and they expect perfection by the officials. Do they expect perfection by the Major League Baseball umpires, by the NBA referees, by the hockey? Only NFL referees. They have to work to perfection, and if they're not, they come under scrutiny. So they're working. Everybody said, "Well, make them full time." Full time's not going to make them any better. They work every game that's available to them. They do everything that they need to do during the season. During the off season, they're training, they're doing their own things. But making them full time will make no difference in the how well they officiate.
Mm-hmm. Do you think maybe the course going forward is maybe putting more eyes on it? Possibly. So now where you sit there and say you're looking at the line now, putting eyes on if some of the controversy has been some of the tackles are jumping off sides, maybe putting eyes on that particular thing in itself. What do you believe? Or maybe pass interference.
Well, it's kind of interesting. Mike Pereira, who I officiated with, I worked for him up in New York when he was in charge of all the officials. Mike always wanted to put a sky judge, another official up in the box to help out. And I was always against that. And the more I think about it, if you could have somebody out there, another set of eyes, you've got 7 officials out there. In college, you have 8. And, you're getting to a point where they're going to kind of get in each other's way. You got, as big as these guys are and the way they move around, you don't need a lot of guys out on the field. But if you could put somebody up in the skybox that could help them out, I kind of agree with Mike on that I think it could really help out and get another set of eyes on the egregious things. You don't want them up there officiating the game. You want them up there, and that's what replay started out to correct the correctable errors. Now they're getting into replay to officiate the game, and they're spending too much time, moving the ball a couple of inches and put clock a couple of seconds back on the the stuff that they're doing. They're over officiating with replay right now. It's correct those correctable errors, but the problem
Jim,
is the egregious ones you can't correct. That's the problem that you have. You can't.
Right.
A missed pass interference, you can't correct it. Things like that. A bad blockers. So hopefully that's what some of the stuff in the ear is trying to do. When they're trying to help these officials out from New York.
Well, the reason that is, I think part of it is because the amount of money that's in sports right now. I mean, let's be honest. I think because of the betting and whatnot, people want to make sure they get things right, and like you said, if we know, like the officials, if there's no recourse for them getting things wrong, okay, and we had this conversation on saying, well, look, we know sometimes controversy sells. As long as you keep talking about this thing, it keeps drumming up, the narrative particularly. And I even said this. Now the NFL has an official bad guy, which are the officials, okay? They are the officials, all right? And somebody has to be the one that comes in like the NWO and all them guys in wrestling, the bad guys, boo! So they turned it in on the refs. My thing is this, okay? Y'all guys have a tough job. Y'all are humans. There's going to be errors in all the things that y'all do. No system, I don't care what it is, no system is perfect. No system is perfect, right? But until you get to that point of trying to do some things to try to get to almost perfection, then you just got to do what you do what you can. You just got to do what you can. So,
and people have got to realize, Jason, they're on 1-year contracts. The officials, they could be released at any time. In the first few years, they could be released, without cause. But if they're not producing, if they're not meeting certain requirements, they can be released. So it's not a job for life. They're under a lot of pressure, and like I said, some of them have problems with it, and some of them get through it. But you've got to get these guys to make the call that's necessary to call, and not look over their shoulder and worry about who's going to see that or what's going to happen to me on this.
Yeah. What do you think about this? And this is your own personal opinion on it. Obviously, they're saying there's an investigation right now on Patrick Mahomes. Okay. Maybe, I don't know if he possibly said something in particular to the official in a way. I don't know if it was a touch. I don't know what the investigation is about, but they say they're doing an investigation. And I know y'all want, and y'all have great relationship with all these players and quarterbacks and whatnot. You talk all the time. I showed Marcus a picture. I would go to the referees. I would go to y'all all the time and just have a conversation, ask you, what do y'all think about this? Why y'all call that? And so this was it. One of those, I think I ran over a referee. That was my bad on that one. But you see, on the other one, I'm actually talking to, trying to get a ruling about what's going on in the game. And I think it's very important to have that communication throughout the entire game, right? Because I'm trying to get y'all, I'm trying to get y'all on my sides, right? I'm trying to be on your good side, so you don't call anything on me. And so, as a coach, I used to be on the sideline and I would whisper in your ear, "Hey, watch this guy holding, watch this guy jumping off." And I told Marcus this all the time. I'm almost trying to wheel a call in my favor. I'm almost trying to talk you into give me a call. Just continue to talk to you. I think those things are important. But,
we've said this earlier too. Communication is so important out there. It can prevent a lot of situations that go on. I mean, I was an umpire, which was like a linebacker, and I loved hanging in there. And, a defensive lineman would say he's holding me, and I'd say, show me something. Show me where he's grabbing your jersey, but show me something. Try to get away. And you talk to the guys, and you talk to the offensive lineman and say, hey, next time get your hand inside. It's so important to talk with these guys and throughout the game. I mean, I kind of enjoyed doing that. It kind of kept me in the game and all that. But you're right.
Yeah.
You've got to establish a rapport with those officials. You've got to be able to talk to them. You've got to understand what they're looking for, and they're going to tell you. Especially they'll tell the defensive backs, don't grab. I'm watching you do this, and I'm watching you do that. And you try to do that, and most of it, I would say, most of them do that, and it hopefully it prevents something. But if you're looking for a call, it ain't going to get you a call, Jason. We're not going to let it get you a call.
Well, I've tried. I'll sit there, oh my gosh, he's holding him. Look at him, ref. He's all around his neck. And and so you just hope that, he's listening to you. And it's funny because we see y'all laugh or kind of smirk a little bit because we know y'all hear us. We know y'all hear us sometimes.
We know what's going on. We know what's going on. Yeah, that's for sure. But Jim, man, I tell you what, this has been, refreshing to kind of just get your perspective on everything, because regardless of, I don't know if this helps or not for a lot of people. Some people already have their minds made up. Okay. It's always, I see it now in some of our chats. The Shepherds has it out for the Chiefs or every other team out here, or they're saying, they're biased between, I just don't buy into that type of, kookiness. That's what it is to me. If you start getting into that place of just thinking that, well, Shepherds is calling it against the Chiefs all the time. Well, you know what? Then if you have evidence of that, that's how I look at it. You got evidence of this? Fine. Show it. Bring it up here, okay? And make a full case on what you're saying, right? Make a full case on what you're saying. But I just don't buy into that type of, conspiracy. That's what it is. It's conspiracy in a sense. Carl is one of the better veteran referees in the National Football League. I've worked with Carl. He worked for me when I was running the NFL Europe program. He was learning to be a referee back, 20 years ago. He's done a great job, but he's like, he'll make a mistake. But let me tell you what, he's a professional. He does his job. He's right down the line. And it's kind of interesting. Somebody was saying, well, maybe this official made that call because, he hadn't made any calls all day and he wanted to get a little bit of TV time or notoriety and all that. It's the referee. It's the referee that if you make a bad call, it's the referee that made the bad call. He probably had no idea what went on down there, but it's the referee. But, those are the things that people have got to understand, that these officials, they go in there, and I remember I worked games, and it was almost to the end of the game before I knew who was winning. You're so focused on your job. You've got pre-snap routine. You got once the snap is gone, then you got a post after the play is dead. You're always moving during the game to try to think what's going on. So it's sometimes it feels like this official's after us, or this official is screwing us, or whatever it is. But I can tell you guys, they get paid the same, from every
either way,
no matter where they go. And they don't care. They don't care who wins or loses. They just try to keep the level playing field out there.
Okay, so you're telling me there's no phantom calls like, hey, listen, look, they're up by 3. We got to keep it now, okay? Within the 3, don't call something to keep them back. None of that goes on.
I hope there's no phantom calls, or makeup calls, because that always used to be the joke. He's called that a makeup call. Well, you know what? If the first call was bad and you give a makeup, now you get 2 bad calls and you're going to be out of the playoffs before you know it. You're making calls like that. But it's an easy out. It's an easy out for people. I understand that. But you mentioned earlier, this game has gotten so much bigger because of the gambling in fantasy football. I mean, it's, that's what it's all about. And, sometimes it's not if you win or lose, it's, how many points you win by or how many points you lose by. And it makes it, and the game has changed. When I was officiating, we weren't even allowed to go into Vegas. We weren't even allowed to go to Atlantic City. We could have nothing to do with any gambling sites. We couldn't even, nothing at all. So the game has changed a lot over the years.
Yeah. So with that change, okay, and I'm gonna leave the floor to you on this. Where do you see this going, refereeing and officiating going in the next few years? Okay, with all the controversy and things that has been happening because of it, Where do you see it going the next few years?
I think you're going to see a little bit more assistance given to them by additional officials on the field, whether it's a sky judge, whether it's an additional official on the field to help out, because the game is getting awfully fast and very physical, and you want to get the coverage. They have the coverage in college. They have the eight officials in college. I think the NFL needs to look at that. They need to put an umpire back in the umpire position to control the line of scrimmage a little bit better. But I think, it's just a matter of experience. You've got to get these officials that are working the games now. There's so many young officials with under 10 years of experience that need to get more games under their belt. And it's just like a player. The more you play, the better you're going to get. The same thing with officiating. The more you officiate, the better you're going to get.
Okay.
And I would love to see them start a developmental league like they had when I ran the NFL Europe program for 10 years, and every official that came onto the field in the NFL had to work in Europe for 1 or 2 years. So they got to kind of get a little feel of what the game was, not jumping right from a college game, a Division 1, 2, or 3 college game into the NFL. They got to see a little bit about NFL rules and the game in particular. They need a developmental program to help these young officials and the ones that they're bringing in to get them prepared to work at this level, because the game is changing every year. It's getting faster, bigger, and more complex.
That's good. That's good. I coached the NFLPA Rookie Bowl this year out in LA, and they had some of the young officials come out there and kind of talk about it. And I was speaking to them about the whole process of how do you become a referee? What do you do? And I know they have now, like in the NFL, they have some of the former players. They want former players to get in doing some of the refereeing, which would be great. I think that's a wonderful, wonderful idea. But now, if you do get a developmental league, Jim, there are millions and millions of fans out here that feel like they're officials. We're going to open the door for them to get a chance. Now you have a chance to develop and make your own call. That's what I love about it. Do that. How about that, right?
Jim, listen, I got to tell you something really quickly. When we had the NFL U program, we brought some of these former players over, and two of the absolute best were Rodney Harrison and Fred McCrary. And
oh wow!
They were really good. And, because they can read. They read the plays. They know what's going on out there. I joke because I worked with Rodney for a couple of years at NBC, and but I told Rodney he did a much better job, getting on TV than getting on the football field. But Rodney did a really, really good job out there, and so did Fred McCrary. Yeah,
I know Fred, man. Fred's a good guy. He's a good guy. Great guy, actually. I played with him in Philly, man. That's wonderful stuff. That's wonderful stuff, Jim. Jim, I appreciate it so much. I really do. I mean, it's been a wealth of knowledge and just information for you, man. Thank you so much for coming in and just giving us what you had. Seriously, and if you give me the honor to something comes up to give you a call. Now, immediately I got on the phone like, let me call Jim and find out what's going on about this whole thing. We love to have you on any other time.
Any time. I'm just a phone call away. Anytime I can, even if it's a short little session or something comes up controversial, and if you have questions or anything, you've got my number. We keep in touch. If there's anything I can ever do for you, this has been a joy for me. I enjoy doing this. This has been fun, and I really appreciate the opportunity. Thank you, guys.
Well, thank you, Jim. I appreciate it. I know my fans, they all appreciate it, and this is going viral. Everybody is checking this out. They want to hear what you had to say, and I can't think of a better person than you to give them the truth about how things work in the NFL. From being from the NFL referee to being the one that makes sure the referees, the officials, are doing the job they need to be doing. So thanks again, Jim. Appreciate it so much. Hey, listen. Hey, we said this before. If we don't get to talk to you, man, you have a wonderful holiday. Merry Christmas to you, and all those great things. Okay.
Happy holidays, guys. Great. Thanks an awful lot, and I'll talk to you again soon. Okay.
Okay. All right.
Thanks,
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it. All right.
Bye-bye.
That was fantastic. I mean, like, we have a lot of people talking about, I mean, what everything he had to say, great perspective. I mean, it's not every day you get to talk to an NFL ref and just, kind of hear, what's going on, like, what goes on behind the scenes. Because, I mean, we see stuff and everyone can say, like, we watch these players play and stuff, and when these coaches make calls, like, oh, he shouldn't be calling that. It's like, you could talk about that stuff, but, like, guys like me who never played professionally, we sit at home, we're like, oh, man, he shouldn't be calling that play. It's a bad play call. Or he should run left. You see, like, when they talk about CH's lanes. Oh, he should have run left there. Why did he cut it up that way? He should have gone that way. It was a wide open lane. But, like, hearing a guy like that, I mean, that's fantastic stuff. I mean, it was really great pool by you getting him on the show.
Man, look, you're not going to get any type of insight than that. No better than that, right? I mean, he's the one that policed the officials. I mean, that's what his job was to do, to make sure and review everything the officials did, not to mention just being on the field for the number of years. And look, he has a great relationship of rapport with Andy and all those guys. There's another thing Jim talked about. So I see Catholic Wells talking about, I refereed a Pee Wee game only once. Them people are brutal. Yes, they are. That's the thing about it. People are brutal. And that's the thing about it. We want everybody to be safe, even referees. And they're going to get a bad rap. We understand it. They're going to miss all type of calls. We understand that. They're human. Things are going to happen. Calls are going to be subjective. But when we get into the reality of things, and that's one thing I wanted to make sure, at least from my perspective, is that we control what we can control, period and point blank. I don't want it to put it in their hands, the Zebra's hands, to make any call that they need to, especially something like that. And with this, I think we're going to get better from it. I think this is maybe the catalyst to get us started to saying, like, look, we need to get everything that we do tight. We need to be on our responsibility and held accountable for everything that we possibly do out there on the field, because we can't leave it up to anybody else. Okay. I can't rely on the judge to make a call or official to get me lined up correctly. You got to do that yourself. I can't look and think the judges or the official, I keep calling the judge because that's what they are, to official to make sure that I'm not jumping off sides. Or I'm not making a holding call. I'm not, defensive pass interference, whatever the call may be, I said this, we need to go ahead and shut those doors. The Chiefs need to shut those doors. The team needs to shut the doors right now. Okay. Keep all the noise that's coming from the outside coming in and creeping in. Okay. Whether it be on social media, whether it be out here in TV land, whatever it may be. I don't care what it is. But controversy, criticism, either you like it or don't, I think these guys need to be above all of it and get past all of it. Okay. Take care of what you need to take care of. Move on, move forward, because I think that is the way that you go ahead and you play championship football. A lot of it is responsibility. Okay. A lot of it is making sure that we're doing everything we need to do possible to win games and put ourselves in a position for a Super Bowl run. So that starts off with us from the start to the finish, pure and simple. And then we'll let the cards fall as they may. That's just how it is. That's how I feel about it. And so I'm not going to leave it like Coach Bill didn't like leaving it on kickers. I'm not going to leave it on an official to make a call for me. I'm going to line up and I'm going to go kick his dude right across from him. I'm going to kick his tail all day. That's what I'm going to do. Okay. And at the end of the day, hopefully it goes into wins. That's an important part.
Agreed. Chris, happy holidays to you, buddy. Heads up. We're going to backdoor the number one seed. Have faith. Oh, I haven't lost faith yet. JD, so with our show tonight, there was a topic because you're talking about, how this is kind of going to be our means to kind of get back on the horse. And this may be a wake up call, like this whole week of it's kind of getting, we've been talked about this whole year, but is this Chiefs offense gone? Is it done? But now it's kind of like turn this whole new head into a different way, talking about the criticism of Mahomes. I mean, everyone's just trying to jump in on the coattails of this whole Mahomes, oh man, like he's not professional, the way he talked to Josh Allen, the way he blamed on the refs after the game. It's hypocrisy based on the way, the Super Bowl ended. They shouldn't call that flag within the last 10 minutes. And then you have the Denver Post write an article saying that they broke Mahomes and the Chiefs offense. So my question is, what do you think of the criticism that Mahomes kind of received this week? Is it fair or is it too harsh? And also with that, you kind of alluded to it. Do you think we're going to kind of take what happened this week and kind of internalize that and like say like, look, the whole world's against us now. And like you kind of said, JD, I like the WCW reference. We kind of are the heels now. We've been a team of people have been starting to hate for the last few years.
Yeah.
But it's almost like Hulkamania walked into that ring, put the leg drop on Macho Man, and then pointed at Kevin Nash and Scott Hall, and the NWO came. I kind of feel like we may embrace this bad guy look this week and kind of put a ass kicking on New England and kind of like internalize all the stuff that we've been hearing this week. What do you think about that?
Well, to me, hey, man, let us use it as fuel. But to be honest with you, that's exactly what I was kind of addressing, is us being above all of it. Be above all of it, right? We know we got a job to do. Let's go ahead and do it. So, yeah, they're going to say that Patrick Mahomes is a bad guy now. Oh, he out of sorts. That's one time you've seen Patrick Mahomes act that way, okay? Now, if any of us are defined by our worst moment or a bad moment, then guess what? None of us will be deemed good or anything like that. None of us, okay? So if we all want to be defined on maybe something, a frustration or some anger issues we had at one point in time that we lashed out and say, this is who this guy is, that's completely unfair. That's completely unfair. Patrick Mahomes has been nothing but a consummate pro the entire time. He has carried himself with dignity and respect and honor throughout the entire time he's been through the NFL. Nobody can dispute that. Not one person. So if you want to be that guy, that joker that comes in and say, well, Patrick Mahomes, oh, we broke Patrick Mahomes, right? That's just talk. It's silly talk, okay? It's the same thing like when I hear people out here who's criticizing guys for whatever reason. It's silly talk to me. Forget that. Ain't nobody worried about that. Like I said before, we got to be above all those things. And guess what? If Patrick want to take that and fuel it and say, okay, fine, you want to call me the bad guy? Whatever. You could call me it all you want to. I'll tell you what you're going to call me. You're going to call me Super Bowl champ, MVP. That's what you're going to do when you're going to put on my name. How about you do that? Okay? And we do it. Repeat guys doing those things. So that's what guys that are great do. They let those things go, okay? And you focus up because those things, that's what's important, okay? All that other noise and stuff out here, it's not going to get it done. Broncos didn't break Patrick Mahomes. That's crazy. It's funny. It's funny to say it, yeah. That's the smack everybody talks. Oh, we don't broke Patrick Mahomes. All right, fine, whatever. We ain't worried about what somebody says. Doesn't matter. All that matters is what's going on in that room. That's it. In that Chiefs locker room, that's all that matters. The only one they can rely on at this moment is them, okay? And our job as fans, as the ones that love the Chief, is to continue to support them in their toughest time through this adversity, through all those different things. I don't have to sit there and run my mouth on Twitter, trying to, argue with people if, to call this and all of that, or, Patrick, I don't have to go through all of those things, right? All I have to come in and show Chief concerns. I'll support the Chiefs. I think these jokers are going to come in and win a Super Bowl. That's what I believe, pure and simple. And I'm going to stay riding with them the entire time. I don't care if they're 8-5. I don't give a damn. I'm with them. Fine. Hey, guess what? We're still the best team in football, period. That's what I believe. And I'll tell you what, nobody wants to see us. Marcus, nobody wants to see us. They don't. They don't want to see that smoke. They can talk all that noise until, guess what? You see us on the schedule. When you see Chiefs come into that building, it's a whole different story then. Whole different story. So that's how I feel about it, man. I just being in the locker room, you don't worry about the noise because there's just plenty of it out there. And if you start playing into it and getting it to you and all that stuff, that's when you lost. That's where you lost.
Yeah, and that's one thing. Like I will say, like in years past, we've kind of like worn this whole like not like this the whole bulletin board material, which you hear last year after we won it. You heard during like the press conferences and stuff. They were kind of bringing up, but everyone doubted us, talking about like certain shows like First Take, Colin Coward, different shows, people just doubting us. And these are just like hot take shows like, oh man, Chiefs aren't going to win this year. They don't have Tyreek Hill. And obviously we saw what happened. But like right this week, it seemed almost like everyone was kind of gunning for us in a more personal way than we had before, talking about the integrity of Patrick Mahomes, questioning his integrity. But the way he talked to Josh Allen midfield, the way he talked about the refs, having to be held back from the refs. And one thing, and I tweeted from our account, and it's something that, Tom Brady did get a lot of hate from people, but it seems like over the last few years as elder statesman, Tom, when he played till he was 50, everyone forgot about stuff that he did when he played. Everyone forgot about him chasing down that refs at the Panthers game and yelling at the refs as the ref is going to the tunnel. But then Mahomes is yelling at the refs. You know, he's a young guy still. He's yelling at the refs, and he all of a sudden gets called out for being this awful guy. But like when Brady did it, was like, oh man, he's fiery. Like, you know, he's a passionate guy. Mahomes does it. Oh man, look at that. He needs to be suspended. League needs to do something about that. It's like, whoa, what's going on here? It's ridiculous.
I mean, look, people have their opinion about either of them. To me, I think both of them were wrong. I think when Brady did it, I think it was wrong. I think when Pat did it, I think it was wrong. I understand the passion of it. I get guys are caught up in the moment, but we got to call wrong is wrong, right? And Patrick, he apologized because he understood it wasn't wrong. You know, that's not him. You know, that was him in the moment. That was a moment that he had, but he realizes that this is more than just football. Okay, he is without a doubt. He's a guy in the community. He is a role model, and he understands. Like, look, if I'm doing this, kids are watching these things that's going on. Okay, he has a different responsibility, and that's what I like about Pat. That's character right there. That's what a guy that actually is who is the leader. That's what he does. Pat came in and he apologized for that, for his actions, and well done for him. My hat goes off to a guy like that. Dude like that, I can respect all day long because he's truthful about it. That's why I love Pat so much. So I don't know, Brady, if he came out and did those things, I have no idea. Doesn't even matter. You know, he's out of the game right now. So they can pull up all type of shots and videos of him doing it well. Doesn't matter. My thing is, when Pat came in and he apologized for it, hey, guess what, man? That's a good man right there to me. That's a good man right there for me. And that's why it makes it much easier for anybody to get behind a guy like Patrick Mahomes. You can know he's not a guy that, you know, who's sitting over here is going to waffle on who he is or his character, right? You don't have to sit there, well, you know, they made me upset and it was a bad call on it. You don't have to do that. You don't have to defend yourself. Your character will speak volumes for you. Yeah. That in itself spoke volumes. All right.
Tell you what, though, I would love if we did embrace the bad guy look. I mean, Mahomes coming out of black and white NWO.
I got you. Hey, look, hey, there's 53 guys on the team. Other guys can do it. Let Chris Jones, them guys do it, right? Yeah. I love Travis Kelce because Kelsey's going to push it on dudes. That's what I love. I think Kelsey's embracing that role, and he should. And he should. So I'm with that. I'm with that at all. Yeah. Appreciate you. Somebody sent a little something, man. Holly, appreciate you for that little dip on that. You know, and all of y'all showing up tonight. Appreciate you all just coming in and checking us out, right? You know, we're gonna give you that smoking fire. We are, you know, for sure. Somebody else gave us a little something earlier too, man. You know, we love it.
We gave a shout out to Chris already. Yeah, Chris.
Right, man. Okay, no doubt. Have faith. We're gonna keep the faith. That's what it is, man. We ain't letting these guys go. Shoot, you best believe we riding with them all day, all night.
JD, so one of the other topics, we have two more topics, then we have game picks, then we're going to be out of here. I know it's already a long show. But so Zach Ertz taking his time. It's been well reported that he wants to play for a playoff team, and the Chiefs are interested in Zach Ertz. Now, as far as I don't know the money contract aspect of it, I don't know any of that stuff, but I have to imagine it's going to be a 1-year deal. Probably, you know, something small because he wants to play for a ring. You play, obviously, you were a tight end. And this is what we've talked about, signing receivers in the middle of the season, how hard that can be for a receiver to kind of learn that playbook, right? Now, we've never really had to talk about a signing a tight end in the middle of the season. Now, I want to know, what you think of his fit in Kansas City, because we're talking about, you know, needing another guy, another playmaker that doesn't have to be a receiver per se. So you get a guy like Zach Ertz who can bring someone to the table. How would he fit in Kansas City? And what would kind of be the I guess the ways of the learning the playbook, would that be tougher for a tight end? I mean, because we talk about how receivers have a hard time with the playbook, but a guy coming in midseason, a tight end, how hard would that be for a tight end to kind of learn this playbook midway through the season, or more than midway through the season?
I don't think it'd be hard for Zach Ertz at all. I think because of his experience, he'd be able to pick up things pretty easy, and especially. With his craftiness, he's a crafty receiver, tight end. He can get open. He can move the chains. Do we move on a guy like that? I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind at all. that is that 12 and 13 personnel you could possibly use. But, Zach Ertz could be that guy that you say, hey, look, we don't need for you to stretch the defense. We just need you to get open in the middle, right? So even if you are doubling up Travis, we have Zach Ertz who can throw the ball to. But look, Noah Gray fits at Bill for us. He fits at Bill for us. So you can get depth there, okay? It could be another guy. My thing is, I don't know. I really don't know. I love to have Zach Ertz here. If we could get him for the price, right price, I think he'd work nicely. Like I said, he's a guy that can get you 5-8 yards just running routes. So good tight end. I don't believe that it would take him long to understand the things and what he needs to do. He's been around the block a little bit. He's got a great feel for the game and defenses. That would definitely help us out. So, but I don't know. I don't know if that's something that you need to do right now or not.
I mean, according to Kelsey's podcast, he said everything we had to get right is in the room right now.
That's true. No, it is. It's true. So my thing is, if we got the guys in the room, we've been building that rapport. We've been building that relationship, trying to establish those things. Do you bring a guy in to say, okay, well, you're going to fill the void? Well, we thought the void was filled with these other guys. Let's get those other guys going. Let's get Kadarius Toney going, right? Let's get him going a little bit more, okay? So we got guys in the room to do those things. We got a Noah Gray who can go out there and catch footballs and get in space and do all those things we ask him to do. And he's been doing a damn good job of it too. Damn good job of it. So,
and quite frankly, I think we get if this were to happen, right? Talking about 13 personnel, we saw it a lot last week where Blake Bell was coming out there towards the end of that game. You put 13 personnel with Kelsey, Gray, and Zach Ertz. That's 3 sure-handed guys right there.
That's different than with Bell in there for sure, but it still kind of limits you. I like the 12 more than I like the 13. I love 13. I love as many tight ends you can get in the game, personally. Okay, I just love the ability and options that you have in 12 personnel as opposed to the 13 personnel that you want to put in the game. Okay, because you still have 2 wide receivers out there, and you still got 2 pass catching tight ends that can do it all and can still block. So it puts defenses on their heels because they don't know what to do. They don't know what they're going to get.
Give a shout out to Go for Casey Forever. Great show and nice hearing Jay Don his take on things.
Appreciate that.
I said that we get number 1 seed. Go Chiefs.
That's
Let's
right,
go, baby.
Absolutely, no doubt. Go for KC forever. Absolutely, my man. Or female, whoever you are, appreciate you. Thank you. We're right with you.
I do gotta say I love the love that Noah Gray's getting by everybody here. A lot of people online on Twitter were all about bringing in Zach Ertz, big names. A lot of people naturally go to the big name kind of guys. I don't think it should take away from Noah Gray. I think it just adds kind of another weapon that we have, and who knows, a guy like Ertz could probably maybe take away some of the reps from maybe one of the receivers that we have. Maybe having him out there, could be 13 personnel with having him in there, but maybe taking away some reps from one of the receivers who, if we kind of take away from the 8-man rotation that we have.
The only thing about that would be because you still have receivers who can go hit their head on the goalpost every time they catch it. They're a little bit more elusive. Zach Ertz he done now. You talking about lose a step? He's done lost 2 or 3. So I'm just I'm not trying to be funny either. I'm just Zach says he's been hurt. He's been hurt over the years. And that's been part of the problem. But he's still a capable receiver. He's got great hands. This doesn't catch anything thrown to him. But I think when you're talking about getting into small windows, we have guys in the building that can do things that other people just can't do. Okay. And particularly when I'm talking about Kadarius Toney is that guy. I like Richie James. Richie James is another guy that can do a lot of different things in that space. He runs great routes. He got good hands. There's things he can do. He can help us out. So I think we just keep growing with what we have, right? Don't disrupt that process. Don't disrupt it. And I think that we're right there. We're right there, Marcus. Just continue to get better. Coming into this week, playing this this New England game, and we know Belichick is going to give everything that he could possibly do, okay? This is a great test for us because they're going to try to take away the things that we do well on offense, which name one, Travis Kelce, okay? How do you subdue Rashid Rice? Okay, if Isaiah Pacheco comes in, how do we stop him? That's Bill Belichick. That's what he does. He customizes what you do well, and try to beat you to it. Okay. So the thing is, other guys need to come out and produce. And hopefully we'll see that this week. So,
and like we've said on the shows we've had this week, it seems like we are kind of fine-tuning that, the personnel groupings. Yes, we had a problem with that last play personnel grouping, but it seems like every week we're kind of fine-tuning that personnel grouping. You're starting to see a limit of the amount of guys who are getting more reps. We're seeing less snaps for MVS, less snaps for Sky Moore, more snaps for Rashee Rice, more snaps for our guy Richie James, who's starting to get acclimated in the offense a little more. Obviously, he was hurt for more than half the season, but starting to see him get acclimated a little more. Seems like they're kind of fine-tuning who's going to get more reps as we get closer to grind time and the playoff stretch here. So, yeah, I'm curious to see as the season continues this weekend. I'm curious to see which receivers are getting more and more snaps. If we are going to see more Rice, more KT. Yeah, and KT as well. He's gotten more snaps. We've been calling for the last few weeks. He's getting more reps. And I do have a feeling that with all the crap that he got this week, I have a feeling, and based on the way Andy is, I'm feeling they're going to not force feed him the ball. I feel like we're going to see first couple drives of that game, they're going to see some snaps for Toney where that ball, whether it's jet motion, quick screen, he's going to get the ball a few times in the first two drives of that game, I believe.
Yeah, he should. He absolutely should, man. We got to get him going. I'm all for it. So, man made a mistake, but we got to keep getting him going. I'm going to keep leaning on him. I know Andy's going to do it too. So he's a weapon for a reason, and we need to utilize that weapon. It's time to sharpen him up, man, because we're going to war. It's all about war now, okay? Oh, yeah. It's what it is. But appreciate it. John Clever said, JD makes it sound like Ertz is crawling on the field doing rounds of blocking. No, man. Hey, look, man, I'm trying to be as easy as possible on it, man. Yeah. but for sure, I think our guys are going to be ready. Let's go ahead and get to the score, Marcus. Think what the score is going to be.
We got game picks, baby. Yeah. So Chiefs are a 9.5-point favorite at New England. And that's a 1:00 game on Sunday. Obviously, this game was flexed. Was a Monday night game. Could you imagine a Chiefs-Patriots game flexed out of a primetime Monday night game to go to be a 1:00 game? I mean, you would never think in Andy Reid versus Bill Belichick time they would ever have a game they'd flex out of primetime, but yet here we are. 9.5-point favorite, 1:00 in Foxborough Sunday. JD, who do you have and why?
So I got it 31-10. That's what I have for us. 31-10. Obviously the 31, I think we still putting these things together offensively. This is going to be a good defense to go up against. They're never out of it. It's Bill Belichick's defense, okay? And they've been doing a decent job beating some decent teams. That's the thing about it. They've held their own. And so we got to be prepared, especially this week. Do not take this team lightly. They got their problems, but they got some solutions on the other side of it too. Okay. Their biggest Achilles heel is the quarterback, not know what they want to do. But they got some decent receivers, in Juju, DeAndre, whatever that guy's name, Devontae, I can't think of his name right now. No, not Devontae Parker, but the other dude, the third wide receiver. He's a rookie this year for him. I forgot, but him too. Demario Davis. That's it. I'm sorry. Yeah, he's been doing a good job. Stevenson, Ezekiel. We know they got some weapons. They got guys. Okay, we just need to go ahead and stifle, make sure they don't have anything and get anything brewing. So we stop that. Offensively, we got to come out blazing. I'm talking about open up the book. I don't care what it is. Open it up. So Andy, I know everybody talking about, Andy's this book he has for the playoffs and all these different things. But fine, Andy, come bring it out the closet. What he need to do? Blow the dust off of it. Time to open up the whole playbook, baby. Time to open it all up. So that's the way I look at it. 31-10. I think we're going to beat this team handily.
So when I first made this graphic for the show, so 9.5 points, it's since gone down. So that opened up at 9.5 points. We are now a 7.5-point favorite, so just over a touchdown. Seems like people are kind of going in on the Patriots to cover the spread. Which, I mean, 10 points based on the way our game's been going. 10 points, man, it's kind of a lot of points based, and we're on the road too. But also total points in this game, 37 points. So it's gonna be a low scoring game. You have 31-10. You have a couple points over the total points there. Yeah, JD, I'm gonna stick with you. I'm gonna go 28-14. I think we cover the spread. I think they scored 2 touchdowns, maybe a garbage touchdown at the game, garbage time touchdown at the end of the game. But yeah, 28-14. I think obviously last game where we'll play Bill Belichick in New England. This is my hot take here, JD. This is where a lot of people are saying this could happen. But last game where we have Andy versus Bill Belichick as Patriots Chiefs. And then next year we'll have Andy Reid coaching against Bill Belichick 2 times next year when he's the LA Chargers head coach. That's my hot take.
Interesting. Okay. All right. We'll see. Shall see.
There's a strong possibility, obviously. Also, I will say this: with the knowing the history of the Chargers, the ownership, that they don't like paying their coaches anything. So there's a chance they may not get Belichick. But I think that Herbert, you got a guy in his prime. You need to get a good, solid coach there to kind of take care of the defense, and then you bring in a good O guy to kind of take care of the offense. Then you have Harbaugh coming from Michigan to go to the Raiders. This is my guesses, and if that's the case, Jay, that's a division, probably the best coach division, maybe all time. Andy Reid, Belichick, Sean Payton, and Harbaugh. That'd be intense.
Well, great, good. Then we'll give out 6 lumps for all of them. Okay, 2 each one. How about that? We ain't scared. We ain't died to nobody, Marcus. They never have, never will. Never have, never will. So
yeah, I agree.
Yeah, bring them all on. Yeah, we at that point now. We bring it up, bring it all on, bring it on. No.
Yeah. And meanwhile, while they're spending for coaches, we'll be spending for possibly a number 1 receiver next offseason. But that's a couple months from now problem.
Yeah, sure.
But all right, everybody, it was awesome having everybody on here tonight. It was amazing engaging with everybody. Glad everybody loved having our resident ref now. So we're gonna have an official come on whenever there's any questions in doubt, as we said. Yeah. But yeah, couple scheduling for you guys. So obviously it's Friday night. We have our betting show. Sunday after the game, we'll be right here on our Chief Concerns channel. And then on the 20th, JD and I will be doing our show on Bleacher Report. So that will be back on Bleacher Report for the 20th. That'll be at noon on the 20th. And yeah, and so we'll continue to give you updates on where we'll be on doing our live shows. So yeah, love hanging out with you guys as always. And JD, of course, love hanging out with you, brother.
My brother, love you too. Hey, love each and every one of y'all coming out, supporting us, just coming to seeing us. Look, give us some things. What y'all want us to talk about? We will address it. We'll have a conversation. But we love this interaction with each and every one of you all. Thank you for your time. Y'all be safe. Y'all be good. Let's go Chiefs.
Have a good night, everybody. Hi, everybody. Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get the latest from the show. Also, be sure to check out the best clips from Chief Concerns. And if you prefer to listen to the show, subscribe and follow us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and anywhere